So welcome all. And this again is going to be our webinar, our final webinar about this funding opportunity announcement in 00014-22, the fiscal year, -S-F-003, the FY22 DoN, Department of Navy STEM Education and Workforce Program. So again, welcome. And Dr. Mariel Young, who is our grant specialist, is for this afternoon also our keeper of the slides. So Dr. Young, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll go to the agenda. And you can see here what we're going to cover over the next hour or so. We'll go over a fairly quick overview about what federal grants are about. We'll give another quick overview about this particular funding opportunity announcement. The fact that it does involve a two-stage submission process, one stage involving white papers. We'll talk about the criteria for evaluating what comes in. We'll talk about the recommended but not required Naval Partnerships, white paper evaluation, proposal invitation process will be talked about over the next hour. There will be important white paper dates that we'll go over, as well as some important websites that could be of use to you as we go forward from this. And then at the end of this session, we will go over questions and we'll provide answers. We will start with the questions that were pre-submitted during registration. During the course of this hour, if you have other questions that come up, feel free to put them in the chat box. We may get to them depending on how the time goes. But if we don't get to them in this particular session, we will get to them and be responsive to your questions, whether you ask them in pre-submission or not. And that is also a comment that I'm making in general, not just in relation to questions and answers, but also about this whole funding opportunity announcement, that Dr. Yelman and I are always available by emails, phone calls. Up until you submit your proposal, we're always happy to talk with you, field your questions, discuss your ideas. And that is an offer that we offer to everybody, and it does stand. So Dr. Young, we go to the next slide, please. Here's where we get into a little bit of discussion about the federal grant and what it is. A grant, as it says there, is the transfer of anything of value from the federal government to, in this case, a non-federal entity to carry out a public purpose that is authorized by US law. It is a form of federal financial assistance. The funds go to support ideas and projects that provide public services. They can stimulate the local or at-large economy, and they benefit the general public. For example, innovative research can benefit the general public. Funding opportunity announcement is a broadcast to everybody of the availability of the grant. It's publicly available as a document that contains all official information. For example, the goals of the grant, deadlines, eligibility, reporting requirements, all of that's in the funding opportunity announcement. It provides instructions on how to apply for that grant. That, of course, is really important. So that will be the kinds of things that you would find in relation to a grant. I should make a note here that we are talking about grants and not contracts, which is a different thing. This particular funding opportunity announcement covers only grants, and that is the only vehicle that we will be using to talk about this opportunity, and that's what we'll be focusing on is grants. Dr. Young, next slide, please. So in this slide, we give an overview about this particular funding opportunity announcement. Again, the numbers at the top. And it is, again, an annual funding opportunity. It's an opportunity for efforts that provide solutions that establish, build, and or maintain STEM educational pathways of US citizens directly relevant to the needs of the Department of Navy and its current and future workforce. The award through this particular funding opportunity announcement is intended to be a maximum of $200,000 per year, up to 3 years. So the total amount is anticipated to be $600,000. All programs and efforts should be responsive to the program as described in Section 2A of this funding opportunity announcement. Who's eligible? Listed there: academe, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, all can be eligible for this funding opportunity. White paper submissions are required. Anticipated right now are awards of up to 10 from this particular FOA. Let's talk a little bit about this diagram here on the right. It illustrates some of the ideas that are permeating throughout this particular funding opportunity announcement. I'm going to start at the 10 o'clock position there where it talks about the word inspire. The idea here is that, as a first step, we want to make sure that the people out there are inspired about the kind of mission that the Navy has to accomplish. There is the idea that we can have situations, outreach, events, whatever it might be. This is some of the things that you might be creatively coming up with to inspire people who will be potentially contributors to accomplishment of the naval mission. So that's the inspiration wedge there at about the 10 o'clock position. Going clockwise to 12 o'clock position, the word there is engage. Inspiration is a very important first step, but without the engagement, we could very easily be losing people, and we don't want to do that. So we want to make sure that we engage people after we've inspired them to make sure that they are always aware of the Navy need, the Navy interest, the Navy opportunity. And so the word engage is there to convey that idea that you've inspired them, 10 o'clock position, you need to engage them so that they are always aware of Navy need. Going to the next wedge there, educate. We want to make sure that the people out there are made increasingly aware of the opportunities that through this particular FOA, for example, they have to become better informed about the kinds of things that Navy needs, the kinds of tasks that Navy needs accomplished, and their potential role in helping Navy meet those needs. So the educate is to increase awareness and connection to opportunities. Attract and employ is certainly one vital step in making sure that we have a current as well as a future workforce that can help Navy accomplish mission. So we want to, attract and employ, as the words say, people who will be able to do the kinds of things that we need them to do to help us, Department of Navy, accomplish mission for international security purposes, for maintaining Navy technological superiority, all of the good things that we need Department of Navy able to accomplish. Down below, the develop and retain wedge talks about the idea of developing and retaining networks, connections, access to and with people and networks, such that, again, everyone is aware of the needs of Navy and we retain that access to them as they continue in their education and training and highway through life, and that we all advance, and that includes Navy and its accomplishment of mission. Collaborate, the final wedge here in our clockwise rolling through all these wedges. That absolutely is one of the things that we want to make sure that everybody does, particularly is facilitated through this funding opportunity announcement, that they are again, able to connect with the people and networks that we've inspired, engaged, educated, attracted, employed, developed, and retained, that all of the people, all of the organizations are working and maximizing the benefits of what they can do by collaborating and doing things in collaborative sorts of ways. So that's that slide. How about if we go to the next one, Dr. Yell? Title here is that it's a two-stage submission process, and that is exactly right. For this particular funding opportunity announcement, stage one is listed there. The first step is a white paper that must be submitted to FedConnect. It is a required step. There is no way out of it. Stage 2, after the white papers have been evaluated, is the Naval STEM Coordination Office and Naval STEM, in other words, will be inviting from those submitted white papers and evaluated white papers. Some of those will invite for a proposal. So the stage 2, their proposal submission is by invitation only. And in this case, the proposals are submitted to grants.gov. So it's a different place than where you submit your white paper. White paper is submitted to FedConnect. Proposals, upon being invited, are submitted to grants.gov. This is illustrated in the graphic here on the right side. There is grants.gov, which is all part of this process. And right now we are in this first box of white paper submissions up through the 15th of April. It is again required. It's open to all eligible applicants, and it must follow the content guidelines for white papers. The next step indicated there is that the Navy reviewers will review the white papers, and out of those reviews will come the idea to invite some of those to be turned into proposals. So proposal invitation is indicated there in the blue box in the center. That will be by the 22nd of July. Next step is proposals will be submitted from those that have been invited. You see the date there in September. Again, that's by invitation only. And then ultimately the award that we are anticipating providing to those whose proposals have been accepted to go on to grants. The award will be made in February of next year, 2023. So that's what's on this slide. Dr. Yelton, if we can go to the next slide, please. White papers are the first step in a two-stage process, and they are to be submitted directly to FedConnect. It must include the cover page, and the cover page has slots for some really important information that correctly filled in will make sure that the submittal, the white paper, goes to the right place for review. In the 4 pages that are required are these things, the content that's listed in this bullet. It has the project title there. That's a requirement. Technical approach and justification for you, if you're submitting a white paper, to talk about that technical approach and justification in about 1.5 pages. How it's relevant to Navy need. And Navy, again, is Department of Navy, so that includes Marine Corps. Naval relevance, about 1/2 page for that. Naval partnerships, not required, but highly encouraged. Naval partnerships are the idea that what you might be thinking about, what you might want to do, could be in complement to and could be reinforced by people out there at our Naval STEM stakeholder organizations. We'll talk some more about that in a bit. By having partnerships with people and organizations within Department of Navy is what this 1/2 page on naval partnerships is talking about. Next line in 1/2 page, your approach to management. We'll say a few more words about that in a bit. Metrics of evaluation, we need to know, in your view, how to measure accomplishment. And then in a table, we're saying here about 1/2 page to include a rough order of magnitude, what resources it'll take to accomplish this thing that you are suggesting needs to be done. The criteria used to evaluate all this are listed here. There are 4, and each is equally weighted to the others. So the first one listed here is that what you're suggesting, what you're proposing in your white paper needs to align with the Department of Navy mission. So that's the alignment with the DoN mission. That it has scientific and technical merit. It's not some wild idea, but it actually has real scientific and technical merit, indicated by the second bullet. Third one, program viability during and after the period of performance. So there needs to be a sufficient flow of resources to make sure that what you want to do during the period of performance and after is being thought about and being provided for in the white paper and then invited proposal. So that's this idea here of program viability during and after the period of performance. And the last of the four equally weighted criteria is shown here as diversity, equity, inclusion. This is where you would be looking at the diversity of the people that you would be working with and the groups you would be working with in your idea. So let's go to the next slide, please. Alignment with the DoN mission, one of the four equally weighted criteria. White papers should show alignment with the Department of Navy mission and may include partnerships with naval communities when that's possible, connections with local communities, and that this addresses naval workforce needs. There are targeted communities that are talked about in the funding opportunity announcement, and these targeted communities include secondary education communities, post-secondary education communities. So secondary would be the equivalent of high school, post-secondary things beyond high school, informal science communities. So this could be museums or science centers, for example. And the current Naval STEM workforce is also a targeted community. And all of this needs to address the Naval Research and Development Framework and Addendum, which is a document that is out there. The reference is given later on in this slide deck. The 5 items that are of broad priority in the Naval Research and Development Framework and Addendum are listed here. Augmented warfighter, integrated and distributed force, operational endurance, sensing and sense making, and scalable lethality. Those are the 5 broad areas of priority. Now, when you're putting together your white paper and invited proposal, if there is one, to be specific about how your program aligns with the Department of Navy mission. Really important. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Scientific and technical merit, another of the equally weighted criteria. White papers should show scientific and technical merit, that within the text and diagrams, if you have them, the applicant needs to show awareness of the state of the art and understanding of the scope of the problem. There needs to be evidence that the problem size is understood. Don't want a sense of a problem that is perceived as being too small in comparison to reality, nor too big to make it unworkable. And so there is also the need to have the applicants show that they're aware of the current state of the art in being able to solve problems, and especially problems of a particular scope that would be talked about in the white paper and potentially invited proposal. So what is the problem that the program is intended to address, specifically for the Department of Navy? What is the proposed solution to address that problem? Technical focus areas are to be described. Anticipated impact on participants should also be in there. And examples that are not completely exhausting or exhaustive, so it's not limited to just these examples, but will the program increase the awareness of and interest in Department of Navy STEM career trajectories? Will the program better prepare them, the participants, for entering careers in the Department of Navy STEM workforce? And if so, how? Will the program create direct opportunities for the students to join the Department of Navy STEM workforce through pipeline development? What metrics will be used to measure the impact? The degree of innovation and significance of the technical approach needs to be described. How is the proposed approach new or different from existing efforts? That is an important consideration that should be addressed. Okay, Dr. Oak, next slide, please. Another of the equally weighted evaluation criteria, program viability during and after the period of performance. White paper should address program viability both during and after the period of performance by providing a clear and concise summary of the applicant's capabilities and related experience and that of any other key personnel. The number of participants anticipated, that would be potentially teachers, students, others. A clear and concise management approach. Who or what organization will be doing what tasks? What are the roles of the principal investigator, Navy partners, and/or other key personnel? A breakdown of the overall cost of the program should be there. This should be in a table that should be included with a breakdown of costs per year and anticipated cost elements such as labor, tuition, stipends, equipment, and other things that you may see as necessary for what you want to do. And to include any needed justification or rationale of the overall cost or cost breakdown. The last bullet here, a plan for sustaining the program beyond the 3 years of the grant. How will this program continue after funding from ONR has ended? The idea of viability during and after the period of performance. Okay, next slide, please. Diversity, equity, and inclusion of the program, DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion should be a consideration in proposed programs. It should include outreach to and inclusion of underrepresented individuals. And it should aim to develop programs that mirror demographics of the local communities and are the results of the US Census. And DEI will be weighted equally to the other criteria listed in this FOA. Underrepresented students in STEM include military connected, low income, racial and ethnic minorities historically underrepresented in STEM, females in certain STEM fields such as engineering, physics, math. We'll say a little bit more about that in relation to one of the questions pre-submitted. Students with disabilities, students with English as a second language, or those who are learning English. First-generation college students, students in rural, frontier, or other federal targeted outreach schools. These are all examples of underrepresented students in STEM. And the white paper should include diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts as part of the technical approach and justification. That's where it would be described. Okay, next slide, please. Naval partnerships. Applicants are encouraged to partner with Navy's STEM stakeholder organizations, NSSOs, when possible. Partnerships may help show naval relevance of your program, and partnerships are suggested, recommended, but they're not required for proposal invitation. Naval STEM stakeholder organizations, think of them as where what is carried out are localized in community education and outreach efforts, the things that are described in Secretary of the Navy Instruction 3900.45A. Those are the NSSOs. And you have the option to partner when it is in the best interest of the Department of Navy. White paper should, if applicable, identify potential naval partners, points of contact, POCs, briefly describe how you will go about identifying and arranging partnerships. These are all things having to do with naval partnerships. Highly recommended, but not required. Next slide, please. white paper evaluation and the process for inviting proposals. White paper evaluation is the first step. Evaluated by Naval STEM experts from across the Department of Navy. That is one thing in common among all the evaluators. They are all part of Department of Navy, so they all understand naval mission from the inside out, from what they do, live, breathe on a regular basis. It is who they are. And so they are naval experts because they actually are part of Navy. They're not coming in from National Science Foundation or any other part of government or outside government. They are Department of Navy workers. They will use criteria that have been outlined in the FOA that we've talked about already. And each white paper is evaluated independently. There is no comparison of one white paper to another. There's no particular standard by which white papers were to be compared. And so there is no comparison of one white paper to another. They stand independently in relation to the criteria outlined in the funding opportunity announcement. Proposal invitations based on feedback and recommendations from the evaluators, who again are Navy folk, is how the proposals are selected for being invited. The Naval STEM Coordination Office, NSCO, if you will, by the 22nd of July, 2022, will send out the invitation to those who had submitted white papers. Those invitations will go out inviting a proposal. NSCO will provide feedback upon written request for both invited and non-invited white papers. So if you want to get feedback about the evaluation of your particular submittal, you can do so. Just let us know in writing, and we'll be doing that for you. Down the right column graphically are again some steps and dates of things having to do with white paper evaluations and proposal invitations. So the funding opportunity announcement has been published, of course. We are in this next box, the white box, about waiting for white papers to be submitted. People to submit white papers have through the 15th of April to do so. Department of Navy personnel will process and evaluate what comes in as white papers. And then based upon recommendations and feedback, there will be some invited for proposals, and that'll happen by 22nd of July, 2022. So that's what's all illustrated here in this graphic here on the right. Okay, Dr. Hill, next slide, please. Important white paper dates. 3rd of April, 2022, deadline for questions and inquiries. We're in this phase right now. This webinar is part of the effort to get answers to questions and respond to inquiries by people who might be interested in submitting a white paper. We're in this very first box right now. You must submit a white paper with proper cover page to FedConnect by the 15th of April. In that cover page, there will be a box to fill in with the program officer, the PO. In this case, it's my name, Dr. Michael Simpson. Program officer email address is there. Late submissions will not be accepted. And so that, again, is one of those hard and fast rules. Applicants will receive a receipt of submittal from the Naval STEM Coordination Office. That's this box here labeled the 22nd of April, 2022. This is compared and contrasted with the next box, which is if you have not received a receipt of your white paper submission from NSCO, separate from FedConnect, to please submit an inquiry by the date listed, which is the 27th of April, 2022. So you will get an automated submittal receipt from FedConnect, but that's not the submittal receipt that we're talking about here. From the Naval STEM Coordination Office, you will get a receipt from us, NSCO, showing that we actually did, in fact, receive your white paper. And if you don't get that from us, from Naval STEM Coordination Office, please let us know by the 27th of April. And decision notification from the Naval STEM Coordination Office, you can see listed there, is the 22nd of July, 2022. So those are important dates having to do with the white paper process. And we'll go to the next slide, please. So important websites. These are useful, for lots of different reasons, not just necessarily for this particular funding opportunity announcement. Know more about Department of Navy, that's the first address there. Fed Connect, which is really important to know. This is sort of information for a proper submittal of your white paper. If you're invited to submit a proposal for a grant, needing to know about grants.gov, the information is shown here on the next line. Similarly, there's information there about proposal submissions to grants.gov on the next line. Information about Naval STEM is in the next address. The Naval R&D framework, where I mentioned the 5 broad priority areas that should be aligning to the kinds of things you want to do. The Naval R&D framework is indicated here at this address. To know more about awesome naval research, including, research with us, that sort of information, that's at the ONR website. ONR funding opportunities are also available. You can see the address there. And how to submit cover page template, you see the address there. If you have questions, feel free to contact through DoN STEM grants, see the address there. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is where we get into our questions and answers. And for this, we're going to start with the questions that were submitted, pre-submitted during registration by people who were submitting to be participants in this webinar. Yeah. So we've taken those questions that were pre-submitted, and we're going to address those first. There were several questions that were similar to each other. So what we've done is we have consolidated questions that were like each other so that the answer should answer a good number of different questions that were submitted separately, but were really the same underlying question. So we'll have those sorts of consolidated answers to the consolidated questions as we go through the pre-submitted questions and answers. As we go through the pre-submitted questions and answers, there are going to potentially be some additional questions you may be thinking of. Please feel free to put these new questions into the chat box, and we'll see about the time and whether we can get to those today. If we don't get to all of the questions in this particular session, we will get back with you to address your questions, also to discuss things that you may want to chat about anyway. Again, Dr. Yelman and I are always available. You have our phone numbers and email addresses, and we're always happy to talk about the funding opportunity announcement, as well as your ideas and interests in relation to the FOA, white papers, and all of that as well. So there was a question, or a few questions actually, that came together. Dr. Young, did you want to read these questions, or should I?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read them. Every question that was submitted, and there are quite a few this time, have been submitted, are in the chat if you want to see what's asked. Like Dr. Simpson said, we have combined some similar questions, and we'll answer them at the same time. So Dr. Simpson, the first question is a green card holder eligible for proposal submission? Other similar question was, is U.S. citizens required to apply for this grant opportunity? Can lawful permanent residents, etc.? It's all the same question.
All right, thank you, Dr. Young. Just to clarify, a green card holder is a non-citizen who is lawfully authorized to live permanently within the United States. I just wanted to clarify the definition of a green card holder. So while this funding opportunity announcement is silent about green card holders and U.S. citizenship of applicants, this FOA states on page 11 that foreign entities will not be considered. and the qualifications and research of the PI, the principal investigator, must be discussed. That's again stated in the FOA, in this case on pages 19 and 23. Let me also remind that reviewers of white papers and invited proposals are members of the Department of Navy and US citizens. So that forms some of the universe within which this activity happens. Okay, next question, please.
Dr. Simpson, may I make a clarification on
Oh,
that?
please.
When they're talking about entities, we mean the organization. So if you work for a university and the university be receiving the funds, that is acceptable. You can be a foreign national in those cases, but you as an individual cannot receive direct funds from ONR.
Exactly right.
Okay, second question is, does the group support STEM programs for non-collegiate level programs in communities with naval bases and presence?
All right. Yeah, this funding opportunity announcement covers any stage of the STEM educational system. Now, there is a highlighting or a targeting of primarily secondary, which is high school, could be non-collegiate, post-secondary, including non-collegiate, which could include technical training, certifications, licensing, for example, current DoN STEM workers and their communities could also be in this. That's, again, not necessarily collegiate. And so performing these non-collegiate level programs must establish naval relevance. That's on page 8 of the FOA. And incorporating naval bases and naval presence could be a way to establish naval relevance. Next question.
All right, next question is, examples of former or current programs would be of great interest.
In the ONR website are abridged abstracts of fiscal year 20 and 21. And there is a URL that would get you directly there. It has to do with onr.navy.mil and education outreach. That will get you to abridged abstracts, publicly releasable.
I've provided that link to everyone in the chat.
It is there to everyone. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Young.
All right. Number 4, will those who apply to the FY21 FOA be allowed to submit to this opportunity?
Yes, there is no restriction regarding prior applications. Applicants must comply with eligibility requirements listed on page 11. Next question.
Which opportunities are currently available to submit proposals for education and research?
Right. This Department of Navy STEM FOA, with that big number ending in 003, is currently available to submit white papers through FedConnect for education and workforce initiatives. Now, upon invitation, proposals are to be submitted through grants.gov under this FOA. But, let's go to the next one we talked about.
Can these funds be used to pay student stipends for internships and apprenticeships for DoD contractors? We are just, I'm not sure who asked this question. I'll have to look into it. We are clarifying this with our grants department currently. We have not received an answer back. So if you were the one who asked this question, we will follow up with you later.
Exactly right. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Next one is, will the session be recorded and will it be made available? Yes.
And the recording will be available shortly after this. We'll get a time and a message out when it's available.
Yeah. Okay. Number eight is a model white paper available for reference?
This FOA describes the required white papers on pages 9 and 12. That includes format, page limits, contents, including rough order of magnitude table. All of those are in there. And so that's the closest thing in terms of a model for a white paper. Next question.
How many submissions, I'm sorry, I'm reading it. How many submissions can a PI be part of?
Mm-hmm. And it is only one investigator allowed or CoPIs allowed. This FOA does not have a limit to the number of submissions that a principal investigator may participate in. One person is to be the listed principal investigator in the white paper submittal process into FedConnect. That's one person. That's on page 12 of the FOA. This FOA calls for information about the principal investigator, again singular, and all other persons identified as co-principal investigators. That's on page 23. So for FedConnect purposes and also in general, there is to be one identified listed principal investigator per white paper submittal. All the other co-principal investigators are just that, they are co, but there is to be one single principal investigator in this model of the process. Next slide, please. Or next question, please.
Are there any POCs to work with for providing assistance on funding questions?
Yes. As I mentioned, again, Dr. Yelm and I are available. Please connect with us. We'll be happy to field your questions, refer them on as best to those who might have a more specific, better answer to the question you might be asking. But we're also happy to talk with you and find out what it is you're trying to find out, and then we'll work with you to get the best answer.
Next question is looking into follow-on funding avenues for hacking for defense students.
Right. So this FOA calls for innovation. It's in the Scientific and Technical Merit section, page 29, and developing innovative solutions. That's on page 7, as well as augmenting existing, also on page 7, workforce initiatives. It's important to present innovation, innovative solutions, and or augmentation approaches, even when building upon successful efforts, whether they were in the past or ongoing. Next question.
Okay, next question is number 12. I have submitted several proposals to ONR and have never received any response or feedback. How do I know if my proposal or white paper was ever reviewed? Other similar questions where I know that making contact with program managers is important. I have tried several times, but I've never received a response to email or phone calls. How does this affect your application? What are ways in which I could interact with project managers to see what type of research is best suited, etc.?
The answer is, again, please keep Dr. Yelm and my phone number, email addresses handy, and we'll be happy to talk with you about your ideas and whatever you might submit, whether it's set of ideas, a white paper, anything except a proposal. Once you submit a proposal that's been invited, we can't talk with you about those things. However, prior to that, we're always happy to talk with you about whatever you might have in mind, discuss your ideas. And so, yeah, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Yelm and or myself.
And if I could add on feedback, we uniquely do offer feedback upon request after rejections are made for proposal or for some proposals and white papers. Please be patient though with us, as we do receive a lot of white papers and therefore do have to send out a lot of rejections. So it may take a little bit of time for us to get to you. If we miss you for any reason or never get back to you, you are welcome to follow up, as Dr. Simpson mentioned.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Number 13 is, are you interested in funding proposals that are interdisciplinary?
Right. Yeah, this FOA, again, quoting, encourages applicants to utilize STEM educational research for informing program design and advancing STEM careers and opportunities of naval relevance. It's on page 7. The important thing here is that having, again, the ability to demonstrate knowledge, state of the art, of educational progress, research, and approaches is a good positive thing. So interdisciplinary is certainly one way of describing that. Within education research, there are also other words that are important, like multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary or convergent disciplines or convergent disciplinary approaches. Again, those are all ways, at least within the education community, of demonstrating a certain understanding of the state of the art, state of the research, and all of those are useful. So when the question is asked here, again, it was in a registration process. Interdisciplinary is one of several ideas, but absolutely, these are all ways of demonstrating technical knowledge and potentially part of a technical solution. Next question.
Next question. I believe you actually already answered this one. Is our CoPIs allowed for this funding? And yes, I believe you answered yes, they are. You can have as many as you need, just as long as you provide all the information about their qualifications and what they are doing, of course. Next question is, what are the options for for-profit organization partner exclusively with nonprofit organizations that represent the core mission of the business?
Right. So this DoN STEM funding opportunity announcement states that for-profit and nonprofit organizations may submit white papers under this FOA, page 11, but it's silent about for-profits partnering exclusively with nonprofits. So again, feel free to contact Dr. Yellman or myself. We'll be happy to talk with you about your ideas, explore them, and see how there might be some innovative solution that you might be coming up with. But that's where the funding opportunity announcement has statements that apply. Next question.
The next question is, how many proposals are considered from each institution? Does Naval Base support improve proposal scoring?
Right. All compliant white papers submitted into FedConnect will be reviewed. A selected white paper submitter will be invited to submit a proposal, and all submitted proposals will be, all invited proposals will be reviewed. There is no set number of white papers or proposals from each institution stated in this funding opportunity announcement. Naval STEM partnerships are encouraged, but not required. That's on page 8. Next question.
Next question is did you answer, does Naval Base support improve proposal scoring? Did I miss that? Or
no, that's kind of lumped in with the other one. I was thinking we are developing tech.
Just want to make sure I did not miss that. Okay, we are developing tech that would be massively impactful in this space. What level are projects funded? Is there funding for R&D prototyping?
So this Department of Navy STEM funding opportunity announcement focuses on solutions to maintain and or cultivate a diverse world-class STEM workforce, page 7. This FOA is silent about technology readiness levels or anything else that is like that. This is about workforce. And if you want to talk about TRLs or other things that are more research and technology related, again, we'll be happy to talk with you about that. This particular FOA does not focus in that way. It does focus on workers and workforce capabilities.
Moving on, next one, question 18, what research areas are desired?
Right, are there specific technical areas that are preferred? This FOA focuses on solutions to maintain and or cultivate a diverse world-class STEM workforce. The technical content of any idea must establish naval relevance within the priority areas as outlined in the Naval Research and Development Framework and Addendum, that thing that we'd referenced before at that particular URL. So that would be the extent of what would be there to advise.
Number 19, would it be possible for HBCUs, HSIs to team up with other famous universities, non-MSIs, and submit a proposal together?
Okay, yeah. Eligible minority serving institutions, MSIs, include HBCUs and MIs. So eligible MSIs and non-federal universities may submit a white paper together under this DoN STEM FOA. Next question.
Okay, question 20. Are these specific technical areas, are there specific technical areas that are preferred?
That would be the R&D framework.
Yeah, no. We
How about I
missed
want to know
combining
more.
those questions. Okay, number 21, I want to know more about the scope and requirements for curriculum development for neuromorphic architecture.
Right. And this Department of Navy STEM funding opportunity announcement is silent about neuromorphic architecture. But again, if you want to talk about your ideas and how it might relate to an innovative solution for a DoN STEM workforce, yeah, feel free to contact us.
All right, question 22. Are there specific STEM areas, subjects that ONR have identified as high priority to meet current and future Navy needs? I feel like this also goes into this previous questions as well. Mm-hmm. Just please refer to the R&D Navy research framework to see the areas in which this FOA covers all areas of that framework.
Exactly right.
Number 23, can the individual research carried out by the PIs be incorporated into the proposed scope of work?
Yeah, this Department of Navy STEM FOA, again, focuses on the creation, cultivation, maintenance of a diverse world-class STEM workforce. Individual research clearly integrated into a DoN STEM white paper could be workable. Email, contact Dr. Yum and or myself, and we can explore this with
you. Number 24, is only one investigator allowed? I think we missed this one.
That's the same question.
Lots of repeat questions. Yeah, I think this was already answered. All right, number 25, what is the time period for participation grant period?
Right, and this is again stated on page 10 of this funding opportunity announcement, that the period of performance is up to 3 years with the intended maximum of $200,000 per year.
Number 26, would programs to encourage the growth of female students in STEMs fit into this FOA?
Right. So this Department of Navy STEM funding opportunity announcement includes a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about that as one of the equally weighted 4 evaluation criteria, with a statement about underrepresented on page 8, including females in certain STEM fields where they remain underrepresented. For example, physical sciences, computer science, mathematics, or engineering. Other forms of underrepresented are also given. So all of those are thoughts, categories that you might consider. But yeah, absolutely, those are described in the FOA.
Okay. Number 27, how do we optimize an application?
Mm-hmm. So on page 18 of this DoN STEM FOA, it states that submittals, quote, must consist of a clear description of the technical approach being proposed and its potential naval relevance and contribution to agency's specific science and engineering workforce. This section goes on to further describe various discussion points, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. So 2-3 words that are in there that are important. Clearly, diversity, equity, and inclusion. that all these things need to hang together and clearly say what the problem is you want to solve and how you're going to do it. So that's how one would optimize an application, is by clearly addressing the things that the FOA calls for. And again, happy to chat with you if you want to give us a call about this. You have the question there about degree of synergy.
Next question. We can keep going. What is the typical budget for a proposal sent to this FOA?
Yeah, that's the 200 up to 200K per year, up to 3 years.
Okay. Next one is, apologies, I lost my place.
To what degree is synergy?
Yeah.
Okay.
With other DoD STEM programs strategic, and to what degree is this intended to be its own unique effort?
Right. Yeah, so this Department of Navy STEM FOA, page 7, states that proposed efforts must provide solutions that establish, build, maintain STEM educational pathways of U.S. citizens directly relevant to the Department of Navy current and future workforce. So the FOA is targeting Department of Navy. If there are other benefits to come out of a particular approach, a particular understanding of a problem, and a particular solution to that problem that involves the rest of DoD or the broad STEM community outside of that, those are good things. But this particular Department of Navy STEM funding opportunity announcement talks about maintaining STEM educational pathways of U.S. citizens directly relevant to the needs of Department of Navy current and future workforce.
And the final question, pre-submitted question is, I represent the National Naval Officers Association as National STEM Chair and serve as a member of the Norfolk State University Engineering Advisory Board, 3 elected terms as chair. My question is, my ability to support both organizations, and an OA is leading a project of high interest to the Navy and would be open to the opportunity to multiple HBCUs and MSIs.
Right. So this Department of Navy STEM FOA stipulates who and what are eligible applicants under this FOA, and it's silent about particular coordinated collaborative efforts. Please feel free to email, call us if you want, Dr. Yelb and myself. We can chat about your ideas to see how what you might want to do could be useful in supporting more than one organization.
All right, and then we do have a question on here that I was not able to get to while you were answering the other ones, is what do you mean by the viability of the proposed research after the end of the period of performance? And can we have a copy of the slides?
Copy of the slides, yes, that should be available along with the recording if you want to go about it that way. I will make a note of your interest of getting a copy of the slides. As far as program sustainability or program viability after the grant, there is the strong recommendation, almost requirement, if you will, of including in a table the rough order of magnitude, which is the resources necessary per year to accomplish what it is you want to do to solve the problem that you've identified. This is in the white paper. That is going to be something that you provide laid out for the 3 years, anticipated 3 years of the particular grant, if you were to be invited to submit a proposal and get the grant. What happens after those 3 years? That's where being able to indicate what sorts of activities would be going on during the 3 years that would supply the level of resources that are suggested by the rough order of magnitude to carry the program through after the 3 years that are indicated in the rough order of magnitude. So that would be the kind of thing where talking about being able to be viable and accomplish things in the 3 years, that would be the ROM. After the 3 years, after this particular ONR grant, what are you going to do? So that's where the idea of viability after the period of performance comes into play. There is not a specific laying out of you know, a tabulated ROM as is laid out within the white paper. But in the invited proposal, that's where, again, we could be getting into those kinds of details. If there's an invited proposal of how to indicate that the program that you'll be running for the 3 years would have the resources to continue on after the 3 years of grant funding. Feel free to contact if you want to follow up on that.
I just want to point out, while the slides do say DON_grants_STEM at Navy.mil, that email box will at some point be going away. While all emails are coming from that box will be forwarded to the new ONR has migrated to something called Flank Speed, and we all have new emails. So I have posted the new email box here. You don't have to put that in the cover page. Just go ahead and put the old one in there. I know that's very long and more prone to mistakes. And if you make any mistakes in putting the DON STEM email into there, we will likely not see your white paper. So make sure that when you are filling out that cover page, that it has Michael Simpson's name under the PO, and under PO email, it does have that DON_STEM_grants with an S at Navy.mil. Any typos, and we will not see it. If you do not get back to us by April 22nd, I believe is the date I put in there, and let us know that you didn't get a notification from myself, from that Naval STEM or the Naval STEM Coordination Office, your white paper will not get reviewed. Just because we did not receive it, and after that date we will be starting our evaluations, and after we start evaluations we won't be accepting any errored white paper. So we just want to make sure that all of this entire process is systematic and timely, and that you all get a response by July 22nd.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Young. And again, you have our phone numbers, email addresses. Please feel free to contact us. We want to make sure that you are as well informed as you can be about this FOA, and to make sure that you have the kinds of things that you need to be successful in your white paper submittal. So please feel free to reach out to us.
We do have one more. Do you have time for one more question?
Okay. Sure.
So Pablo Gomez asked, could I add a CoPI? Oh, it disappeared. Could I add a CoPI after the white paper is submitted? Should I be invited to submit a full proposal?
The general model for this particular funding stream is to have a single principal investigator. That's something we can talk about, and we can go through the scope of that consideration. If you want to follow up with us, I'll be happy to talk with you about that. Are there other questions that may have come in, or clarifications that somebody might want to explore in this setting?
There is one more question for Harish Ganesh. What kind of commitment is expected from collaborators from Naval Labs?
Right. If there is going to be a real partnership at that point in things, meaning certainly in an invited proposal, it would be needing to come from a person who has the authority to be making that sort of commitment. And it would be a commitment to, potentially have people come and talk, or people who would, do virtual presentations, or would be doing some kinds of hands-on activities, or doing some kind of exploration with the, say, students of what it means to be doing a naval STEM career, how that person got there, some of the things that students ask, why am I learning this? To be able to answer that sort of thing from a real life perspective. Those are the kinds of commitments that often come up in terms of naval communities and people in those communities contributing to the thing that you are wanting to do. So again, we could talk about the details of how to actually nail down those kinds of commitments. And, generally, COVID certainly really threw everybody for a loop, trying to figure out how to maintain the commitments when, we couldn't meet each other. So going forward, it might get a little bit easier if COVID stays down. But again, if you want to talk about that, be happy to talk with you about that.
Yeah. And we are running a little late here, so if you have any other questions, please email them to the DoN STEM grants email box that was provided to you. You can use the long one since it's in the chat and you have it, or you could send it to the other one. It will be forwarded to us. That's all I have to add. I know we're getting more questions, so go ahead and send those last questions to us directly.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here at the webinar. Again, we're always happy to communicate with you, Dr. Yeldman, and I, about your questions and ideas. And we're here to help. So please take advantage of us. Dr. Yeldman?
No, that's it. Just looking forward to seeing them again. If you do not hear from me by the time stated in the FOA, then I may not have seen your white paper. Just reach out to us by the 22nd of April and let us know that you haven't heard from us, and we'll try to figure out what happened.
Very good. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.